Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Creating Space. I'm Steve,
And I'm Jeanette.
and we are super excited to be on with you today. There have been big changes in the world of AI over the last week or so here. And even as of yesterday, April Fool's Day, April 1st, there was another reiteration of the image generation on ChatGPT. So,
Mhm.
us owning a marketing agency, we do a lot of design work for our clients. That's one of our bread and butters. It is really, really shaking up our industry and is just such a hot topic. So we wanted to jump on, give some of our insights and thoughts around what's happening, update you on how you can use it, what the big changes are, and even chat a little bit about what we think the implications might be, because people are freaking out. A lot of what we're seeing online is, not just the general is AI going to take our jobs, but specific to the advancements with this image generation is that photographers, graphic designers, are these types of positions and skills going to be at risk? So excited to dig in with you and get your thoughts on it as well.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about it. I love experimenting with AI and I think it's really cool. I am for sure someone who's trying to embrace it as, this is the direction that things are going. I really believe that it's important to learn about it and to try to understand it and try to use it in the best way that we can and be smart with it, but also like really see what's possible. And so it's been very cool for me. I honestly noticed it almost immediately. I use ChatGPT probably every single day, to be totally honest. In some way or another, I'm using it. And I noticed the specific changes around images without quite realizing that there'd been an update. I was like, oh, this looks different. And then next day, our team is talking about, hey, this upgrade happened. So we're specifically into, as I understand it, DALL-E 3. And this is natively built into ChatGPT-4 Turbo if you're on the Pro plan.
Yeah, so very important. If you don't have the paid subscription to ChatGPT, basically, you wouldn't have access to this new image generation. I know
Yeah.
the initial plan was for it to roll out even on the free plans, but
Mhm.
not surprisingly, it's blown up. People are using it like crazy. So I know that OpenAI has decided they're actually just going to limit it to paid plans, at least for the foreseeable future here.
Yeah, and honestly, if you're not on a paid plan and you are an AI user, like you absolutely should be, I think it's $20 a month. I don't know if the price has changed. That's how much I pay for it. I've been on it for a while, but couldn't possibly recommend it more. Whenever I talk to someone who is struggling with AI, that's always my first question. And usually the answer is yes, I'm on a free plan. It definitely doesn't function in the same way.
No. And I mean, what you're making me think of is yes, we use it all the time, not just in our jobs, now in our personal lives. And I
Mhm.
think a cool episode for another day would be some of those applications and
Totally.
fun ways that we found it to be a powerful tool. But I do talk to a lot of people who feel like they're missing out on AI. They're behind, everything that's happening and this exponential growth and boom in technology. What I would say is, like, as a first step, even if you get on and play with it at all, you're still ahead of the game. I am surprised at how many people still have not logged in and tried one of the various ones, ChatGPT, I think, being the most widely known about and used platform. So I wouldn't feel too bad about it. Like, if you haven't, get on, start playing with it, have a conversation. You'll be amazed with the free version. But I agree with you. I mean, very quickly, I would say it is worth the membership fee to pay and get the power. This image generation is a really, really good example, having access to it, of some of the extra things you get when you pay.
I think a lot of people are still really skeptical about it and that makes sense. I think this happens with anything new and especially when it comes to advancements in technology. People, I think a large amount of people try to stay away from it, they avoid it, but it hit me this morning literally when our son wanted to ask a question and wanted to find out information about something and he said, can you ask ChatGPT?
It's
It was
wild.
not, can you
Can you
Google it?
Google it?
Which for
Yeah.
a long time has been the way that people have said, oh, well, let's just Google it, he
Oh,
immediately goes to, oh, can you ask ChatGPT? And so something clicked for me there where I was like, yeah, this is the direction that we're
for
going.
context, our son is
He's
6, so
6,
that's
yes.
that's pretty young. And you know what? I would say even in our business, I'm sure if you're listening here, you may have been told or told someone you work with, you get asked a question, have you Googled it yet?
Yeah.
We already, the vernacular amongst our team is like, hey, have you asked ChatGPT yet? Have
Oh,
you
I
worked with
I
AI yet?
literally saw a meme of it earlier today where it's like on the back of a woman's chair at the office, it says, if you haven't asked ChatGPT, don't ask me.
I like that. That's good. I think with the image generation specifically, like just to bring it back to what we wanted to talk about here, if you have used ChatGPT and you've played around with AI or other programs with the AI image generation, it was cool, but I would say that very clearly a lot left to be desired. So
Mhm.
I'd say some of the things maybe when you have gone and tried to prompt it in the past that it wouldn't have really delivered on what you'd have hoped for is, I mean, one of the big things that it was notorious was like fingers, hands looking very
Totally.
scary.
Yeah, it's
Um,
quite creepy,
yeah,
actually. You generated an image that you wanted with people in it, and it looked like a
yeah,
straight up horror scene.
yeah, and really struggled with text was another one, and slowly was improving, but that was a big barrier.
Mhm.
What are some of the other things you can think of that it really wasn't quite delivering on things you could use like professionally?
I just don't think it wasn't able to get vibes. Like, and it's so much of design work and photography and all of that is like feeling, right? And emotion that's attached to it. And it wasn't really able to like set a mood. And now it
Mm.
absolutely can. Like it can understand emotional cues and feelings and vibes is very different.
Right. For someone creative like yourself, I think,
I speak in vibes.
yeah,
So it's like
you
when I'm explaining something to someone, or even within our team, and we're talking about creative direction, like, there's a lot of principles that goes into that, which is also another thing that it can do now. But there's a lot of vibe talk and
mhm.
it's trying to interpretate and understand feeling. This is attached to storytelling. And so we're trying to visually tell the same story as the words and all of that. So that's a big
So if you
thing.
are a creative, right, like, it is able to better understand those types of kind of creative prompts and actually
Mhm.
nail it is what you're saying.
Yeah, it's if not like super, super close. I can give an example that we are currently in the middle of rebranding our agency, Space Creators. And so, in terms of we had a mood, we had a brand board we're kind of going for, visual identity. We kind of knew what we wanted. And I was able to put all of that. I was able to put our brief and kind of our vibe, our mood board into ChatGPT and ask it to create, a very clear, clean outlined brand identity and then brand board as a result of that. And honestly, it got it
Yeah, it was really
basically
cool.
perfect.
It was really cool to see how it was able to, I mean, maybe the difference being, in a sense, before when it was a lot more raw and not really hitting the mark, maybe it was better for just brainstorming initial very light concepts, almost as if maybe you were sketching like original logos and things like that, where now it almost seems like it has the power to do some of the finessing finishing work.
Yeah, I think so. I do. I mean, it's my personal opinion that you still want someone to take it across the finish line, but I think that all of the heavier upfront work could be done by AI.
Sure, sure.
I would still personally want a designer to take what
Right.
AI has created and mold it into a final product. At this point, I can't tell you that even in a week from now, that would be the same
Sure.
thing. But right now, at this exact moment, that's what I would want. But I think that AI can do a lot of the creative direction, a lot of the creative strategy. It can create mood boards. All of this is very available up front.
And the other thing, to my understanding, like vibes aside, creative prompts in that sense, I believe that it really, these new updated versions are applying creative principles on a deeper level, like the rule of thirds and
Well,
those
it
types of.
can. It can. You can ask it to, right? So,
Okay.
again, with ChatGPT and with prompting, that's the key, is how you can prompt it. Before, those sort of visual composition principles didn't come easily or weren't as recognized by the model. And now with the upgrade, it can recognize things like the rule of thirds, using negative space, all those, centered composition, and you can ask for that specifically in what you want.
Wow. Yeah, it's crazy times with this stuff. I am wondering, for anyone listening, what do you think are some actual practical applications of this image generation that maybe somebody can use if they're listening today, and go on to the paid generation and actually try to, use this in real life?
Yeah, for me specifically, and some of the ways that I have been using it already is one, just like visual concepts. So when you have an idea, especially as a creative person, that's inside your head, and it can be very difficult to actually work with another creative sometimes to pull that out. I mean, there's tons of really talented people who are so good at that, but it can be a process, right? To like, especially when you have just something so clear in your head, you can now work very closely with AI to pull that vision out of your head and at least get it to a place that's close enough, or you could take something pretty darn solid to a designer and they should be able to create something much faster for you, whether it's a logo, an identity, visual assets. That sort of initial stage of concepting and ideation, you can absolutely use it for that. I think that's a big one. You can make product mockups now with it, which is pretty darn cool. So if you're a product-based business who actually could just put your product into ChatGPT and create very good mock-ups of it for e-commerce stores or for social media, things like that.
Wow. So I know for our e-com company, our
Mhm.
product-based company, Billy's, it's like a smelling salt company with tins. We don't
Yeah.
have the best. I admit our product photography needs to be updated. Do you
Mhm.
think we could do this?
Yeah, 100%. I would take a iPhone photo of it in good lighting, natural lighting, probably from the window. You can put it right into it. One, you can ask it for just like turn this into a product image with a transparent background. That's something that
Oh,
you
wow.
couldn't do
Yeah.
before.
So like an actual logo, almost like a logo
You
file
could
or
do a
a
logo
vector.
file, but it's specifically for the product. Like if I just want
Yeah.
just that product
Yes.
image, I can do that, ask for a transparent background, or I can ask for it to be mocked up in quite literally any scenario that I want. And so that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's incredible. How about, because I know this is something that bogs people down, is content creation.
Yeah, yeah, you can definitely use it for that. My opinion right now is basic graphic design could be done by ChatGPT. I think anything that's more complex, more nuanced, I said this already, like I think you're still going to need a designer to do that for you in what I've tried to do up until this point. Basic things, for
Okay.
sure.
Because one thing I did see that seemed like it would be a really big time saver for people was maybe using it to make like their YouTube thumbnails.
Yeah.
Right. So it was like, hey, here's an example. Actually, I saw ones where people just did very rough drawings and said, like, create a thumbnail out of the sketch that's finalized. And they looked pretty unbelievable to me.
Yeah, well, that's something that you couldn't do before either, is you couldn't actually give it a reference image.
Right, or like 2 images, yeah, of
You
like,
couldn't
"Hey,
do
take
that.
this and make it look like this." Like, take my
No.
face and put it here.
Yeah, so before you could only prompt it using words. With part of this update, now you can provide reference images. You can provide multiple reference images. So you could have a sketch, you could have an inspiration. I want it to look like this. Take these elements, use this. The more specific you can be, the better. But you could absolutely do that. And in my opinion, YouTube thumbnail design is basic. Like, I don't think you're
Yes.
trying to make anything overly complicated there. The principles of what does well for that is not like
Right.
insanely
Yeah.
designed.
Yep.
So I do think that that can be done well for sure.
One way I did use it was, one of our clients, we were doing an email and they weren't loving the stock imagery we had
Yeah.
for it. And I did actually use it to recreate it similarly, and it nailed it. I needed a
Oh, yeah.
picture of a hockey glove that had holes in it.
Mm.
It was incredibly realistic and an original image.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of one of the cool things, right? Is like you had an image of what you wanted and it was close, but it wasn't exactly right. It wasn't exactly what the client wanted. You would have to either like physically recreate that, you'd have to destroy another glove, take another photo, right?
Well, and the
Like,
reference image was a physical glove we had photographed, and it was
exactly.
too ratty.
And so they didn't
Yeah.
like that. So you can take that and put that into ChatGPT and say, I want this exact image, but I just want you to make it look less ratty.
And in fact, was able to remove the
The
brand that
brand.
wasn't our client's brand from the glove.
Yeah, you can basically do that, and that is what's cool about the update is you can also now make edits on specific images. Before, if you would prompt something for an image and it didn't get it right, likely didn't get it right before, you would reprompt it or ask for changes and it would have to generate you an entirely new image. Now, you can actually work on the same image. So, it doesn't necessarily have to give you something new. Like people would get so frustrated
It
with
was,
this
yeah.
because you'd ask for something and then it would come back with something that was entirely different. You'd try to get into, then,
Well, it'd
it
be
gets
painful
confused.
because image generation, again, it's gone so much better. But what was almost worse was you get something that was kind of close
Yeah.
with the old one, and then you want to tweak it just
No.
a little bit, and it would give you an entirely new image that always was way worse.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
it never was, yeah.
No one would get more frustrated about this than our son because I would use ChatGPT to make custom stories for him for bedtime.
Right.
And so it started with just the stories and I would just read them, but then he wanted photos added to it. And so he would see a photo and he would be like, no, not like that. I want it like this. And then the photo would be completely different. And he would just be like, that's it. I'm done. I'm done with ChatGPT.
He
Because
is your son,
it,
yeah.
it wouldn't get it right, and like and it would change it and it would morph it, and then he'd be like, well, why is there a fifth raccoon
Yeah.
here now, like, and just the perfect example of what was going wrong was that scenario.
Have you guys made a story with the new one yet?
No.
Wow,
So
he's gonna
he's
love
gonna like
that.
that,
Yeah.
which is exciting. But so yeah, now you can specifically have an image and you can make very specific edits to it, and it will maintain the image and just make the requested edits, which is super cool.
Well, and with the image referencing too, I just remembered a way I used it. I think it was like the second day after it dropped was for my men's league hockey sweaters.
Mm-hmm.
So you would not have been able to do this at all. But Billy's, the smelling salt company I reference, we want to sponsor the men's league team and use it as marketing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you had told me, you're the one who gave me the idea. I was trying to work with a builder from a website.
Yep.
Anyone who's ordered something like that or done trying to customize a piece of apparel using a builder, you're limited to what is in the templates. So I was trying to use NHL jerseys and then put the logo on it and try to customize it a little bit, and you were like, hey, if we're sponsoring the team, it should reflect being someone who understands branding, you're like, it should probably reflect the brand's brand and have its brand colors and be a full application of that. I was able to take the company's template, feed it as a reference image with our brand kit, and it made these custom jerseys that were so cool. Like everyone loves them. I was able to deliver that back to, and even like you're saying, back to the company. Their designer was able to just tweak the final little pieces and it was done. And this took seconds in ChatGPT. I had an answer from the company in under 24 hours. And that's something I don't even think we could have done it. Or even if I had to work with their designer, it would have taken a while to get there. And so that was a really cool, like, my mind was blown.
Yeah.
From the first version it sent me, it was incredible.
Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, it's worth experimenting with. It's worth trying. I think it's going to only obviously continue to change over the next little bit and probably continue to improve. So I do think it would be interesting to kind of dive into, what we think some of the implications of this are for marketing, for graphic design, for photography, all industries that we work in. And just like, how do we see this affecting things? How do we see it changing things right now?
We're seeing that a lot with the hooks on people's social posts right now
Yes.
that are talking about it is like, designers are cooked, photography is over. And it's interesting. I mean, I'd be interested in your perspective. I know
Yeah.
Mike on our team on a conversation today with one of our clients was saying that he thinks in the short term, like cheap design work, Fiverr,
Yeah.
type of hires for logo design might be in immediate trouble. It's kind of in line with what you
Yeah.
said.
Totally.
I agree with that. Think,
I definitely agree with that too. Just sorry, like
yeah.
I tried it because I'm working on branding for my new offer that's called the Chill Space, and we can talk about that in depth on another episode as well. But it's basically a nervous system regulation space at high energy events, and so I was working on branding for that, and definitely like the logo designs with the prompts that I was using is what I would expect to get back from a
From a
Fiverr.
designer, yeah.
And so it was able to do that. I mean, I wasn't happy with any of them, but I also wouldn't be happy with Fiverr design. So that's just me. But
And again, like with the exponential growth of it, kind of like you alluded to earlier, I can't say with certainty
yeah,
that it's not going to replace high-end design. But I do like something I heard before, and I think there's a general fear around AI taking everybody's jobs. And listen, I do think it can be a little bit scary, and it definitely, could be a tool. It can be also like a hammer and flip it around and use it the other way, and it's a weapon. But what I had heard is that, there's never been a time in human existence that a new technology was introduced and it actually took away more jobs than it created. I would say, without being able to predict the future, maybe this is the closest type of technology introduction to do that. But at least right now, what I'm seeing is it is more empowering people that, already have that skill.
right.
Right? Like, so what I'm trying to say is that I don't think if you're not a creative person, you're going to be able to get as much value out of this new image generation as someone like yourself who is able to explain the vibe, is able to think about the prompts, knows some of those actual design rules, right? A designer, a photographer, they actually know what they're looking for in that creative aspect.
Yeah,
So,
for sure. In that same way, it's like you have to know what you're looking for in AI.
yeah.
So it's like you have to be able to explain that well. And then equally, when you get something back that's wrong, you also have to know that, right? Because I think a big mistake that people make is they go to ChatGPT wanting it to fill in the blanks, give the vibe, give the explanations, all of this stuff, but you won't know if that's wrong or incorrect or not on vision, not on brand, if you don't have that skill set to kind of look for it.
Yeah. So for at least for now, I think it's more, able to take away some of the physical or redundant tasks or, some of the heavy lifting on these types of things and hopefully open up the person who would have been doing this type of work to actually the more like creative side and
Mhm.
conceptual side is my hope for it. So at least in the near term, I mean that's what I see. I don't think it's going to replace graphic design
Yeah.
tomorrow,
I
maybe.
don't think so either. One thing I think it could replace is stock photography.
Right.
I have used ChatGPT yesterday to generate stock photography, and it was crazy. So I literally gave it an image. So again, I did have an image for reference with specific ingredients. This was for a food image, and gave it the prompt, gave it the image, and it generated back like beautiful, high quality, custom stock photography that was usable. Right. So it's definitely still going to be like a learning curve for myself, for everyone, of like how to really nail it. But what you can do now is like, yeah, why would you download this like super generic stock photo that anyone could use that you've probably seen other people using because everybody tends to use similar ones when you could actually create something that is like a stock photo but is custom stylized to your brand, is unique to you? Like that is actually very doable now.
And in terms of implications on industries, I mean, there are photographers that, made their career in shooting and selling
Totally.
stock photography. So that's a good one.
And I think it'll be time until that. And I think stock photographers could still, do well for themselves by trying to really shift now into like, you're going to want to start making things that are super curated, really stylized collections, like niche aesthetics, things that maybe aren't as widespread, but I don't know how long that
Well,
will
maybe it's
last, but
some of what
that's
you were saying, kind of hitting those different vibes and being able to curate it in that way. It's interesting. But again, maybe it does, it does start to take away certain opportunities in certain industries. I think
Mhm.
where you hit the nail on the head with, the creative side, but AI in general is, I think if you can be agile and creative and pivot and think about how this can empower you instead of just being scared and throwing your hands up in the air like my job is going to be replaced by a robot, you can put yourself in a really good position to be like an expert in this space because
Totally.
who's really an expert? It's all still so new. So
Yeah.
not too often to have that type of opportunity with technology.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think there's still just this opportunity to, lean into realness, lean into being human. I think that I'm all in on AI, but I'm also all in on being human. And my personal brand is all about that. And I just think there's still opportunity to create human connection with people, even from a photography perspective. Like AI can't do documentary moments. AI can't yet do like human micro emotions or those like very honest interactions between people, hasn't really captured that. So I think that things that are deeply human will stand out over the next little bit. So I think there's still opportunity to create those kind of connections as
Mhm.
well.
This is probably a good time to let you know that we are, in fact, completely AI versions of ourselves. No, I'm just kidding. But is crazy. That
Could
stuff.
do that
That
though.
stuff is really close, if not here already. I'm sure you may have seen on social. Like I've seen a couple of pretty crazy posts where people are like, "Is this me or is this one the AI me?"
Yeah.
And you can go through a couple of steps right now and get it pretty darn.
I wish I could remember the tool that I tried yesterday that I couldn't tell. I could not tell. This is an AI
You
generated
built one of you?
person. No, no, no,
Oh,
no.
okay.
Not of me, but of like of someone else who was in input into the app. I cannot remember for the life of me what it's called, but I looked it up yesterday and they had probably like 6 or 7 different generated people. 3 of them like you could not tell that it was not a human talking. It was insane. Like that difference of where,
Yeah.
the way the mouth would move, it was perfect. So
And
that's
talk
definitely
about
changing.
scary. I mean, I think we could do a whole other episode. And for sure, this is a little bit of a new style for us where we wanted to jump on. This is such a new technology and trend in marketing. We wanted to kind of bring our insights on it because we thought you might find it useful. But please let us know if you like this type of topic. We could go on and really do that full episode about how people are doing these kind of AI clones and the opportunities and the risks there because that is that really can be scary in some ways. My understanding is that if you do upload that AI content, that at least some platforms can actually detect it, and if that's all you were doing, it may not get the reach.
You
But
are supposed to mark it off now. So like when you upload AI generated content, you are supposed to indicate that there's an opportunity to do
okay,
that.
yes, yeah, I didn't know that.
And so that
Yeah,
it can be flagged and marked as AI generated.
yeah.
I don't know that everybody actually
Again,
does
I
it.
I think this would make an awesome topic for a future episode. So
Yeah.
let us know. Also, you can sign up for our email newsletter on our website. That's a great place where we're going to be delivering information and news and keeping you up to date with all the latest and greatest, and not just marketing, but the technologies as well. But I feel like this is a good place to end it. I've
Yeah.
enjoyed the discussion. Thank you.
Yeah, super fun to just do a quick hitting something that's kind of relevant, trending right now. And we'll definitely do more of these. So, like Steve said, let us know what you want us to talk about, and we'll totally record it.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you on the next one.
Bye.